Hi everybody, welcome back. This episode's going to be a little different than what I was planning. It's going to be just a little bit of a delay on the part 2 about complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's because about a week and a half ago, I really badly sprained my ankle and hurt my leg. And it's been a lot trying to just keep up in my life while I'm having trouble walking. Realistically, it's going to be a week or two before I have that episode ready, so I apologize for the delay on that, but I'm sure you understand. I didn't want to go too long without making an episode, though, and so I decided to go ahead and make an announcement I'm really excited about, and that is that I am in the process of writing a book. It should be ready late this summer, early fall. I'll definitely be, in the coming weeks, maybe couple months, let you know when I have an exact date. I've written books before on different subjects under, different pen names. And it just occurred to me that, now that I'm 4 years in of no contact with my mom, and not that my journey is done by any means, but that I've learned enough that I should share my story in writing. I actually am a much better writer than I am a speaker. And anyway, I'm just been working really hard on it for months now, and I would like to read a chapter out of that. It's a little bit of a revision from an episode I put out a long time ago. It was a journal exercise where I answered a couple questions. I've taken that and just brushed it up and updated it with some of my newer understanding. And I'd like to read that to you today, just to offer a sample of what the book will be like. This chapter is titled, Today, She Has Me. Earlier in my healing journey, I was encouraged to write about my feelings on various topics. In this chapter, I share one of my entries, written in response to the question below. I have since revised it. Think back to when you were a child and an adolescent. How did you feel about your mother? How did you feel about yourself? How did you feel in general? As a child, I felt unbearably lonely. Always. Loneliness followed me like a shadow, clinging to me everywhere I went. I was alone at home. I was bullied at school. My social skills were poor because I had so few appropriate social interactions at home, and my classmates didn't know what to make of me or how to interact with me. In my 40s, I became friends with a woman who'd gone to school with me as a child. One day, in an honest, transparent moment, she explained as gently as she could, I remember feeling sorry for you. I wanted you to have friends, and I felt so sad that you didn't. So one day I tried talking to you, and you were just so weird. I didn't know what to do. I watched the other kids at school laughing, chasing each other, and forming the effortless connections I longed for. I was always on the outside, looking in through a glass too thick to break. I was there, but I wasn't with them. The loneliness ran so deep, it felt like a part of who I was. I lived as though I were stranded on an island, completely isolated, clutching a telescope that let me see the world from afar. I could observe life, see joy and hear laughter, but I could never touch it, never step into it, never feel it. I didn't belong anywhere. Sometimes when the ache became too heavy, I would crawl into my mother's lap, seeking warmth, comfort, and love. Anything that would tether me to the world. I wanted to be touched. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be assured that I was real. But she would sigh in irritation and push me away. Enough! Get down! Ugh! There was no tenderness for me, only dismissal. Eventually, I stopped trying. As a child, I played with my stuffed animals and imagined they were alive. I pretended they could hear me, that they loved me, and that they wanted to spend time with me. In my mind, they weren't just toys. They were my friends. Friends who never ignored me, never pushed me away, and never made me feel like I was too much or not enough. One in particular A stuffed Garfield wearing exercise shorts and a sports band around his head was special. I loved that Garfield. And at some point in my teenage years, I got rid of him. I don't remember when or why. Several months after I terminated contact with my mother, I found myself thinking about that Garfield and wishing I had never let him go. I cried. I knew it was strange. Who mourns a stuffed animal? But the ache in my chest was real. I didn't just miss that Garfield. I missed what it had been to me. I needed something, someone, who felt like they were mine and I theirs. I understand now why it hit me so hard during that time in my life. I was grieving the mother I'd spent my life believing I would someday have. The one I'd convinced myself would finally show up, see me, love me, and choose me. That mother was a fantasy, but I'd believed in her. And when I walked away from my actual mother for good, the delusion and the hope for that fantasy mother's arrival was shattered. She was gone. She had died. She'd never actually existed, but she had been real to me. Now I had to face life without the dream of her. The waiting was over, not because she had arrived, but because she would never come. I felt empty, like something that was supposed to be inside me was missing. A cavern stretched inside my chest, a space meant to hold something vital, something that never came to be. In its place, there was pain, a deep, pulsing, relentless ache of emptiness that never let up. It throbbed beneath my ribs, ever present, gnawing at me from the inside, as though I were being eaten alive. I carried that hollowness everywhere I went, unable to escape it, unable to fill it, unable to name it. Whatever belonged there in that cavern, I didn't have it, and I now understood that I never would. I felt more alone than I ever had, and I longed for anything that had once made me feel safe and loved, even if it was a stuffed toy. As a teenager, being around my mother was unbearable. Every time she was near me or even in the same room, I felt an invisible force, a crushing weight pressing down on me whenever she came near. This ever-present mix of anger, dread, and pain loomed over me like a storm cloud that never passed by. I was constantly on edge, my body wound tight with stress and terror. I just wanted her away from me. As much as I had once ached for my mother's touch as a child, by adolescence I couldn't stand it. The moment she laid a hand on me, no matter how light or casual, an intolerable wave of anxiety squeezed the air from my lungs. A coldness filled my mind, blocking my ability to think clearly as the storm above me pressed down once again. Even now, the mere thought of my mother touching me sends that same terrible sensation crawling over my skin. When I sought out my mother's touch as a child, she turned me away. But now that it upset me to be touched by her, she couldn't keep her hands off me. One day, I was sitting on the couch when my mother sat down right next to me. She sat so close that the entire left side of my body was squished beneath her. My muscles tensed. The pressure of her body against mine was like an invasion, a deliberate act of disregard. "Can you move down a little?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay even. She refused. From that day forward, if she ever sat on the couch while I was there, she would sit right up against me, even if there was plenty of room elsewhere, every single time. She didn't do this in an affectionate way. There was no warmth or acknowledgement of me at all. She just carried on as if I weren't there while she watched TV, shifted around, and bumped into me like my body was just another piece of furniture in her way. It was as if I didn't even exist. I started sitting on the floor. It was the only way I could keep her from doing this. She never respected my requests or boundaries. If I asked her not to do something, she would do it more, relentlessly, endlessly, as if my discomfort was something she enjoyed, as if violating my boundaries was the point. Would you chew with your mouth closed, please? This is how I eat. Take it or leave it. She would then chomp her food all the louder. Simple requests were enough to start a war with her. She typically made dinner around noon and left the resulting dirty dishes for me to clean when I got home from school. The food remnants were dried and caked onto the dishes by then, yet she forbade me from soaking them to make cleaning easier. I had to scrub them as they were. After visiting a friend's house and seeing how people rinsed their dishes before leaving them in the sink, I asked my mother if she would do the same. It would only take a few moments to spray them off, making my chores less grueling after school. Her response was immediate rage. It's never enough for you. You get upset over the stupidest things. Why are you like this? Her tone transitioned to mocking. Oh, poor Leslie. She has to scrub the dishes. Boo-hoo. She returned to her tone of fury. You'll wash those dishes the way I tell you to, and I don't want to hear another word about it. Every request or attempted boundary was treated as though it were an attack. If this had only happened occasionally, I could have brushed it off, adapted, and endured. But it wasn't occasional. It was constant. Only someone who has lived under the weight of narcissistic parental abuse can truly understand the devastation of being treated this way, not just once, not just sometimes, but virtually all the time, every single day, by a parent. To always be disregarded, to never be heard, to never matter. It's not a single incident that breaks us. It's the accumulation, the endless repetition of being dismissed, belittled, and erased. I started trying to explain it to her. I thought if I could just make her understand, she would stop. Maybe she would see what she was doing to me and change. But it was futile. Every time I tried to get her to hear me, she either mocked me, flew into a rage, or dismissed me entirely. You're so sensitive. Oh, I didn't say that. You have comprehension problems. You always have. I say one thing and you hear another. And then there was her favorite. Well, it's between you and the Lord to forgive me, as she shrugged. She loved using her religion to escape accountability for her actions. No matter how she acted, she always made one thing clear. It was never, ever her fault. Never once did she truly hear a single word I said. Being treated with such extreme disregard every single day was the worst part of my upbringing. At night, I would lay in bed so confused. Why won't she just listen to me? Why doesn't she care that she's hurting me so badly? What am I doing wrong? Why can't I find a way to get her to understand? I tried. Over and over I tried. And every single time, she twisted the knife deeper with a smile. She never remembered the things that mattered to me, the things I liked, the things I didn't like. She was oblivious to who I was as a person. Even the simplest things never stuck. I hated nuts when I was growing up. Everyone knew that. It wasn't a secret, it wasn't complicated, and yet she never remembered. She would bake cookies for the family and then act stunned when I wouldn't eat them because they had nuts, as if this hadn't already happened 100 times before. It might seem trivial, but it wasn't. It's just one example in an endless list of things she never bothered to know about me. She accommodated everyone else. The elderly women who came to her to have their hair styled, she knew every detail of their lives. She'd cook their favorite dishes exactly the way they liked them. She remembered their health issues, their grandchildren's names, and their stories. But the details of my life were always lost from her. She had no idea what kind of music I liked. She didn't know what hobbies were important to me. She didn't know my favorite color, my favorite food, the kind of clothes I felt comfortable in. She didn't care enough to know these things. She didn't notice that I had asthma as a child. I would wheeze and gasp for breath, my face and neck covered in dark red blotches. She still didn't see me. I wasn't diagnosed until I was in college, after friends rushed me to the emergency room during an attack. The doctor was astonished that I had survived so many years without treatment. For weeks, when I was 9 years old, I told my mother again and again about the sharp stabbing pain in my left ear that shot through my head. It kept me up at night, the constant ache making sleep impossible. Every day I held my ear curled into myself, trying to find a way to make the pain stop. "Mom, it hurts so bad. Do you ever stop complaining?" Then one night, I felt something warm moving across my pillowcase. I sat up, startled. Something wet dripped down my neck. I reached up and touched my ear. My fingers came away sticky. Blood. It had soaked into my pillowcase, staining it deep red and matting my hair to my skin. I didn't know what to do. My heart pounded as I crept into my parents' bedroom. I stood there in the darkness for several minutes, too terrified to make a sound. I wanted to tell my dad, but he was between my mother and the wall. I couldn't reach him. What would my mother do if I woke her up? More blood oozed out of my ear. I slowly reached out my shaking hand and tapped my mother's shoulder. I whispered, trying to avoid angering her, "Mom, there's blood." She took me to the emergency room, where we learned my eardrum had perforated from the pressure of the untreated infection that had been growing in there all that time. My mother was unfazed and indifferent. "Well, how was I supposed to know? When I was a kid, we just had someone blow smoke in our ear and we moved on with our lives. I guess it's different now." Her excuses were endless. I spent every summer in high school staying and working at a campground washing dishes. After 4 summers, I learned that she had thought the campground was 20 minutes from our home. It was actually 3 hours away, and she didn't know its name. A list of these incidents could fill volumes. She never knew how I spent my time or what made me happy, what made me me. She didn't ask. She never cared. If I tried to tell her about my day or about my life, she would either interrupt me and begin talking about herself, or simply leave the room without warning before I'd barely begun to share. She has never really known me. She didn't want to. As a child, I believed my family would have been happier if I were dead or if I had never been born at all. The source of our family's problems always seemed to be me. Why couldn't I figure out what was wrong with me and what I was doing that was so awful? I obsessed over it, convinced that if I could just fix myself, if I could just be better, maybe everything would change. But no matter how hard I tried, nothing ever changed. I spent much of my life certain that something was terribly, deeply wrong with me, that I was unlikable, that I was a burden. Even now, those whispers linger in my mind. But I understand the truth now. I wasn't the problem. My mother was. My mother did not love me because she could not love me. Her disorder made her incapable of it, a disorder she developed long before I was born. It can't be my fault because I didn't exist when it happened. This path was set for me many years before my life began. My mother needed a scapegoat, someone to dump all her negative feelings about herself onto so she could escape them. And she chose me. That was my role. That was my purpose in her eyes. I looked to her as an innocent preschool-aged child, needing her love, care, and support. But all she could see was a garbage dump where she could conveniently place the pieces of her life she couldn't bear. I didn't only feel uncared for, I was uncared for. She didn't care about me and my well-being. She never did. She never will. I spent decades waiting for a woman who did not exist. The mother I wished I had. The mother I needed. To show up, arms filled with love, ready to quiet those whispers in my mind. But she is not coming. Ever. Which means it's up to me to love and care for myself. I am the one who must quiet the whispers. I am the one who must fill that empty cavern. I visualize myself as a child. She lives deep inside of me, tucked away in a small corner of my heart. She must be loved before I can take the next steps. There she is, laying in bed, tears soaking her pillow. I know what she's thinking, what she's feeling, the confusion, the fear, the loneliness. I go to her. I bravely walk into that cold, dark space, keeping my eyes only on her. Nothing in here matters right now except her. I wipe away her tears. I push back her hair and remove the smudge of dirt from her face. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. I hold her as she trembles in terrible sadness. I know you've been alone for so long, but you're not alone anymore. I'm here. I'm here, sweetheart. Oh, you're so beautiful. Do you know that? You're so, so beautiful. You're so smart. You're so fun. I love being with you. Let me just hold you. It feels so good to hold you. You aren't alone anymore, and you will never be alone again. I'm here. I hum quietly as I rock her to sleep in my arms. Today, she feels love, warmth, and care. Today, she feels safe. Today, she has me. I'll see you soon. And please remember, to all my fellow survivors, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are beautiful, whether your mom sees that or not.